This is our Cultivating Resilience in Our Kids webinar. I entitled it, I Can't, I Don't Want to, I Give Up, because that is mostly what I hear as a parent and a teacher, especially with students that have various learning challenges, emotional challenges, navigating mental health challenges, and typical kids, I think everywhere at some time when they come up against something that's difficult, something that's challenging to them, it's almost like the go-to is, I can't. Can you do that? I can't. Or something that they may want to do and say, can you do this? I don't want to. Or while they're in the midst of doing something, they're saying, I give up. This is too hard. And so we experience that not only with our children, but we ourselves as adults battle sometimes with these same ideas. And even though we may not say it out loud, we may say it to ourselves, we may feel it. And so this is really encouragement to everybody. This is a webinar that's built for everyone. And I think everyone can learn a little something out of what we're going to look at today. So my name is Dr. David Palmer, and I am the founder and director of Inclusion Matters Education Services. I'm a dad of 6 children, 5 of them teenagers. So we're right in the midst of raising these amazing kids. But again, with all raising of kids, we know that there are their strengths and then there's stretches, those areas where they are growing. And the main thing I want us to get out of this is that this is a process. And that's why I entitled it Cultivating. We cannot force resilience upon someone. We cannot make someone more resilient. But as you'll see today, I think there are some key insights that we can gain so that we can come alongside of our children and be able to help them grow in these areas. So maybe they'll say less, I can't, and either I'm going to try or I can't yet. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. This is really a labor of joy for me. This is something that, again, I have very personal experience in my own journey with my own children. And then now as a teacher and an educator for almost 30 years now, this is something I love to do, is just share, connect, collaborate. And I believe that this webinar is vital, especially in 2024. We're coming out of this thing called COVID and the pandemic. It has undoubtedly left a mark on all of us, especially our children. And so this is the time, and it's only going to become more and more and more important as the days and years go on. So what I want us to do today is I want us to, first of all, understand what resilience is, and in a sense, understand what it isn't. And then we're going to focus on one key area because of the hour time that we have to focus on one area in which we can cultivate resilience, which is the power of the growth mindset. And then I'll also give some other things to think about as we're working through cultivating this resilience. So this is a broad, overview. And I know a lot of times as a parent, we want specifics. And what's difficult about giving specifics is there's not a one size fits all. So a lot of this depends on this understanding of who our children are, having that empathy and joining them in connection with where they're going on their journey. And then we can figure out what are some supports that will work for them and who they are, building upon their strengths. And so we can give kind of generalized tips, things to think about, things to consider, and then how can I apply that in the context of my family. And so I want to empower you with some understanding and some strategies. I also want to enhance our emotional intelligence, keying in to what our children are feeling, and then practicing empathy as we parent, and then fostering those quality connections, and then thinking about how it's not just us trying to do all of this on our own. we're not alone in this, but there are a community of many, many, many other parents, educators, professionals that we can join with and really build this village that can help with the cultivating resilience in our kids. I love this quote here: resilience is not what happens to you, it's how you react to, respond to, and recover from what happens to you. And so we are going to look at that into some detail here. Now, I wanted us to start out this webinar just reflecting in our own lives, because to build empathy, it's more than putting ourselves into the shoes of someone else, although it's not less than that. But I also want us to understand empathy is connecting to our own experiences, our own journey, our own feelings. So that way, when we see our children going through similar things, we go, okay, I truly know, and I know very deeply what you're facing. And so now I can come and connect with you in a different level. And so I want us to think for a moment, just to sit for a moment for about 30 seconds. We're not sharing this out, but this is just something to consider in our own lives. And I want us to think, have you ever had to walk a journey of your own personal illness, maybe dealing with a persistent ailment, debilitating disease, or had to walk through that with someone you love, someone near to you, or even your own children? As some of you may have seen on our Instagram page, one of our children right now was in Loma Linda Children's Hospital. They were released on Tuesday, but then readmitted yesterday. And still, doctors are trying to figure out why certain blood levels are high and why her muscles are being affected. And so, again, trying to be transparent and relevant, I am in the midst of it right now. So I understand and know how challenging it can be to be resilient, but also know the value of these times. So think about that. Or maybe you've lost a loved one, someone close to you, face maybe a challenge of losing a job, losing your home, having your business fail, finding yourself scrapping for pennies to afford a meal, struggled under the weight of overwhelming debt, and just the stress that comes along with that. And then think about maybe someone you trusted betrayed you, maybe slandered you, even abused you. And I want you to think about those moments, but I don't want you to think about just that moment. I want us to think about, how did we get through that moment? What was it that helped us get through the other side? Now, again, we may not and probably will not be the same on the other side, but I want us to connect to our own journey of building resilience, going through difficult times, growing through that, learning through that, being equipped through that to come alongside others and help them in their journey as they go through difficulties and challenges and tough times. And so let's just consider that for a second. I also want you to think for a moment, how would you define resilience, or what does resilience look like to you? I jump on the microphone, Scott, if you want to jump on in and give kind of your thoughts on how would you define resilience, or you can type it in the chat. That would be awesome. What is resilience?
From my perspective, it's being able to lift yourself back up and move forward. Hopefully learning lessons from why you might have ended up on the ground in the first place.
It's helpful, I think, to stop and consider people in our lives, or stories we've heard of, even historical recounts of people who went through incredibly difficult situations and came through it and came through it stronger. And it gives us hope. It gives us inspiration. It gives us the sense that this isn't a bumper sticker kind of thing where you just toughen up or apply yourself a little bit harder or try harder, but there's something deeper that's going on in this. And so I want to show you this video here. that I think helps us understand what that is.
Resilience is the result of a highly interactive process between individual characteristics in the person and the environment in which that individual has developed.
It's really the counterbalancing of difficult things that may exist in the child's life with positive things that occur within the family, but even positive things that may exist in the community.
An easy way of thinking about resilience is like a scale with a fulcrum in the middle of it. And there are things on both sides of that scale, experiences of both bad things or good things.
Our genes shape where the fulcrum is positioned at the start.
There are certain genes that make a child more sensitive to the effects of maltreatment or parental neglect or witnessing violence.
The fulcrum may start out kind of more towards one side or more towards the other side, and that's going to make a big difference in terms of how much these subsequent events affect things positively or negatively.
Science tells us that experience moves the fulcrum, for better or for worse.
Even though we are born with genes, genes will respond differently to certain environmental situations as opposed to others.
What the genes are actually doing are turning up or turning down the expression of chemicals in circuits in the brain and the circuitry in the entire body that govern our responses to stress, to anxiety, to depressive symptoms.
When positive experiences accumulate and children learn coping skills that help them to manage stress, the fulcrum can slide, so the scale tilts toward positive outcomes more easily. That's what resilience is all about.
There's always an adult, or more than one adult, who is key to providing that relationship that helps to build resilience.
To me, that last part about us as adults being key to this process of cultivating resilience, I want that to resonate throughout the remaining part of this presentation, because that's really where it's at. So thinking about that video and those insights that were shared, I want us to think about this definition of resilience. Now, typically we define it as the ability to adapt, bounce back positively when faced with adversity. And that's true. So resilience has this idea of falling down, getting back up, or being able to come into a situation and adapt and change and recover when we're in those situations. I know, and I know that as I've talked to other people about resilience, there's this initial kind of feeling, because the thought is, well, this is just about telling kids you need to toughen up and get over it. And when I was growing up, I heard that a lot. We just deal with it, or just get over it, or just toughen up, or stop crying about it. But we need to be careful here with that thinking, because we don't want to make this an excuse or a reason for unnecessary harm and trauma. We don't also want to minimize the experiences that people are going through, especially our children. Oh, chin up, it's not that bad. You know, there's people who have it far worse than you. I think we need to be careful of that. And so as I've been doing research on resilience and thinking about this in terms of supporting children that we work with, I love this idea of resilience as a person's capacity to maintain their core purpose and integrity in the face of dramatically changed or challenging circumstances. And that's from a book entitled Resilience: Why Things Bounce Back. And when I found that quote in that book, I thought, wow, this is amazing, because it's much more than just getting through something, coping through something, or bouncing back through a hard or difficult circumstance. It's really this idea to maintain your core purpose. And when you think about core purpose. Who am I? And what strengths do I have that I've been gifted with that I can use to share with others? And so resilience not only has this inner focus, but resilience has this outer focus. It has this focus that I'm going through these situations and I'm growing for a purpose that I have and I'm growing in, and also to maintain this integrity. Integrity is to be integrated, to be whole, to have all parts of who we are maintained. It's character. And so resilience has to do a lot with not just our ability to bounce back, but it has to do with how our character is being formed and shaped, how we are then using that shaping of our character to then go out and live our core purpose, which is outward focused. And so resilience is important because this topic has incredible and significant impact on the lives of our children. And we know that and we see that, and that's why we're here. That's why we're curious about this. And if we look at our children as really the integration of head, heart, and hands, meaning what they think, what they believe, their thoughts about themselves, their thoughts about their world. When we think about their heart and their emotions, their affections, the things that are going on that level, and then their hands, their behaviors, what they're doing, how they're responding to those underlying beliefs and those underlying feelings, that all has to factor into this. And so there's a sense of an emotional strength that happens that our children need to really grow them and to solidify them. And so as they overcome different obstacles and hurdles in their lives, which we all do because we're all going to face these difficulties, as they build resilience, they begin to see themselves as capable and competent. I can. And so when they come up against something, it's not I can't or I won't, or they're in the midst of something difficult and they want to say, I quit, I give up. There's this healthy sense that no, you're much more than what you can't do. You're much more than a deficit. You're much more than a disability. And that's why inclusion matters. We tend to focus on the whole child, strength base, and affirm who they are, as we saw in that video. So yeah, learned helplessness can come along because it's easier in a lot of ways. And so we have this tension as adults, as we're cultivating resilience, to help them and set them up for this sense of lifelong success by helping them positively see their strengths and what they're capable of doing. And then as they have us as adults around them to guide them and to lead them, then they are turning the mindset from just trying to get through life, not just survive, but also to be able to thrive and to see what thriving looks like. And that ultimately this type of living and thriving only comes by building and cultivating resilience through difficult times, maintaining who we are, growing in who we are, and seeing it's much more than just about us. It's about using what we have been given to go and support and help others. And so we see this a lot. I can't, I won't, I give up. And so what we want to start thinking about is how as adults can we genuinely, authentically coach and care for our children so they can say like, you know what, I can try hard things, or I can be my best self. I can make wise choices. I can learn from my mistakes. I think the next one's so important. I have grown-ups that really I can count on and trust that are here to help me grow. They're going to be with me no matter what. I have value. I have worth to share with others. I have things to share, and everyone does. I won't let anything or anyone put me down. And then if they could say, if I fail, I'm going to keep trying and learning. Again, what you're going to find is that these sayings may be more part of a disposition of some kids than others, as we saw in that video. But ultimately, all children are not typically going to be at this place from the beginning. It's something that is learned. It's something that is cultivated. It is something that we can actually be a part of in their lives. So it's not just toughen up. It's not just suck it up. It's not just quit crying. Even I can remember when I was young, my grandparents, if something would happen, I'd fall down or I didn't like something that was going on, it was just like, just stop and deal with it. Stop crying. I'll give you something to cry about, kind of thing. And that really didn't help. It doesn't really help in building resilience because kids are not inherently resilient. They have the capacity for resilience. And that capacity is born through supportive environments and supportive relationships. And so we need to provide, as adults, as grown-ups, we need to provide a secure, stable, connected environment, whether it's in a home, whether it's in a classroom, whether it's in a therapy practice, whether it's in the community. This is the key. The bottom line is, in order for us to teach our children to be resilient, which means to grow in their independence, to do things for themselves, and to be able to handle just the things in life that they need to be able to handle, and to develop those positive social connections, they need us. They need us. And so this is an ongoing, necessary process. It's not going to happen just in one event. This is a series of many, many events that go on where children have around them people who are able to help them regulate who they are and their emotions and their feelings and their actions, and then model for them what this looks like in a way that is not just telling, but also showing. And so that's going to be a very, very important part of this. So think of the rubber band. I have one here. Okay. We typically think of resilience as, this ability to stretch. And that's why I like to use the term strengths and stretches. So there's things that we all as human beings are very, very good at and gifted at. And that's very different from one another. That's what brings about amazing diversity in so many ways. But there's also these areas of stretches where we are growing, and stretching is not always easy or comfortable. And so what we begin to realize is that when we think about resilience, we want our kids to be able to stretch, but not break. So there's this fine balance. Because our kids are not inherently resilient, that's something that we cultivate in. And in order for them to grow in that resilience, they have to be stretched. They have to be challenged. But we also have to be very much aware of not stretching too much. Because again, if I stretch this rubber band too far, eventually it's going to break. And now it is not fit to what it needs to be used for. Okay, it's still okay, but we don't want to see our children in a place where the challenges are far beyond their ability to cope. That's where trauma comes from. Trauma comes from the fact that we face circumstances. Trauma is not the event, but it's how we process those events. And so when we become overwhelmed, particularly our nervous systems become overwhelmed because of things that we're facing, then our nervous system stores what that is. And then if we face even the perception of those things again, what's going to happen is our alarm system and our nervous system is going to go off, and we're going to go into either a fight, flight, freeze, or sometimes even fawn, which we just give in. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're understanding this balance providing enough challenges and not doing everything for them to promote this kind of growth, but at the same time, understanding where they are in their development, in their growth, and preventing them from becoming overwhelmed or even experiencing trauma. And so that's the balance that we're trying to keep as we work through all of this. So what kinds of struggles have you seen? If you're a parent or a teacher, an educator, a professional, what are kinds of struggles that you've seen or situations you've seen in children where they have really had a hard time and wanted to give up or wanted to just refuse to do something? What are some ways that you've seen this? And the bottom line is what we're finding, and I think what we're seeing and what we're hearing right now in this webinar is we're having to first learn the resilience. We're learning how we're having to try to do things in ways that maybe not comfortable for us, maybe different for us, maybe even challenging some of our core beliefs. And yet we're seeing how, as we're working through that resilience, as no one here is given up, that's the same thing that we're looking at in our children, and that we're actually modeling for them. We're actually showing them, and we're actually inviting them along in that process. And so think of cultivating resilience not just as something you have to do to your kids. It's something that you're really inviting them into based on your own experience. And little by little, as you stop and you think as an adult about how you've had to learn to be resilient, because we've all faced in our jobs being, chewed out by the boss and feeling like, I don't need to work here, I quit. But we don't, right? We say, okay. And it's more than just, we feel like I just got to suck it up and do it. We have connected to purpose. We've connected to the fact that, yes, I don't quit because I want to continue to provide for my family, or I want to continue to show my kids that this is how we handle things. And yet I think what's so important is not negating, like you said, Emily, the emotion of it, the wholeness of the child in it. And so as we're thinking through the struggles that we're having in cultivating resilience in our children, think about how we're inviting them into that process, and that we have a unique position as adults, especially as parents, to be able to do that. And so, yeah, but we can unpack a lot more, and I'll share with you, there's actually going to be some opportunities for us to do that later on. So there is a model that I'm developing. I'm calling it right now the Resilient Thriving Model. I'm looking at a couple of different analogies to compare it to. But the bottom line of this model is taking the best of what we understand and know about neurodivergence, what we know about trauma, what we know about the nervous system, what we know about how how to navigate mental health challenges and what those are. I'm putting that all together as a parent, but also as an educator, as a professional, and really trying to build the best model that incorporates a lot of these things. And so there's a lot that's there, but really what I wanted to focus on in this webinar is this idea of the growth mindset. And I know we've probably heard of it. I know some classrooms I've walked into that actually have it posted, but really what is it and how is it key to our understanding of helping to cultivate resilience in our children? And so I wanted to show you this short video here on what
there are two types of mindset we can cultivate. One that embraces problems as opportunities to learn, and one that avoids them, often out of fear to fail. People that avoid conflicts can be described as having a fixed mindset. Those who see problems as interesting challenges have a growth mindset. Sometimes we like to switch from one to the other. People have a fixed mindset because they believe that basic qualities like intelligence or talents are fixed traits, and that these traits are responsible for success. They often like to document past achievements. With a growth mindset, people believe that new abilities can be developed through practice. This view creates the love for learning that most great leaders and artists have in common. For them, life becomes an exciting journey with endless opportunity to figure out new things and advance. To develop a growth mindset, Dr. Carol Dweck, the Stanford University professor who coined the term, advises leaders, teachers, and parents to celebrate trying. Teachers should applaud students for any grade if they studied hard. Parents should encourage their children to develop any new skill they are interested in. Doing this will make them learn the skill of learning, which will also help them back in the classroom. To illustrate the difference in everyday life, let's observe two imaginary kids. Jay thinks you've either got it or you haven't. Anne knows that she can learn anything if she wants it enough. At physical exercise, Jay avoids challenges. When it's time to jump over the vaulting horse, he's afraid to look stupid and be laughed at. Anne embraces any challenge. It's exciting, it's fun. She knows that failing is part of learning, and if she tries hard, at the end, nobody will laugh at her. Jay avoids feedback. If the teacher tells him how to improve an assignment he has been working on, he takes it personally. Anne knows that to improve, she needs to listen to constructive criticism. She also understands that it's not her that is being assessed, but the results of her work on that one day. Jay always takes the easy road. For example, he likes escalators and hates to take the stairs. When he is practicing the guitar, he stops the moment he's getting stuck. Anne usually doesn't even take escalators. She jumps up the stairs, counts every step in her head, and enjoys feeling the blood rushing through her veins. She practices the drums every morning for 15 minutes. Not that she always enjoys it, but she knows that effort is part of a journey to a more fun life. Anne likes to see others succeed. It inspires her. She knows that if she motivates her friends to get better, she herself is likely to grow too. If his friends try new things and succeed, Jay feels threatened. He's afraid that their success will put pressure on him to do more with his life too. Modern companies look for employees with a growth mindset because they solve problems and persist despite obstacles. To spot the right ones, some ask during the interview whether the job applicant believes if managers are born or if management is a skill learned. Jay thinks that managers are born. Anne gets the job. Neuroscientists support the idea. They confirm that the brain grows like any other muscle in the body, with training. A simple switch in how a person views a situation can mean the world of difference. Not just the outcome of that situation, the outcome of that person's place in life. As the late poet Samuel Beckett once said, "Ever tried? Ever failed? No matter. Try again. Fail better." What do you think about the concept? Is it overly simplistic? And if you buy the idea, do you believe it is possible to make a permanent switch from a fixed to a growth mindset? Please share your thoughts in the comment section below.
So then we go back to, how can I walk alongside you in this journey to help you be better prepared? How can I invest and be present in your life in this moment to take that thing that's a strength and not use it against you, but show you how to develop and build it so it works for you? So there's so much more that has to go into our mindset. And that's why in this, if you're looking for specific to how do I do this? How do I get my kid to do this? How do I get my kid to do that? That's the wrong question. The question isn't how do I get my kid to do this? Or how do I get my kid to not say this? Or how do I get my kid? It's more relational. It's more understanding and being affirming and empathetic of what's going on underneath the surface, understanding there's reasons that all behavior is communication. So they're telling you something about their nervous system. They're telling you something about how they're actually processing and feeling this, whether we think it's good or not in the moment, we're looking at that and going, okay, this is valuable information. Now it's my job as the adult to come alongside my child and to help them through this process very gently, very calmly, but also very firmly, because we are helping them develop. Develop means that you are progressing. And so I want us to come out of this webinar and all the work that I do to just stop and say, it starts with us. It starts with our mindsets. It starts with our approaches. It starts with how our faces are looking, how our voices are sounding, how we are doing in that sense. And then if we show them that we're willing to grow and that we're willing to change and that we're willing to maybe even try things that in our brains we're saying there's no way that's going to work, all of that is valuable in this process. So I hope that makes sense. I didn't mean to preach at everybody, but these are just lessons that I have to learn every single day, raising my own children and then working with students in special education. So I do have a few quick starter things that you can think about. Again, all of these things don't necessarily guarantee instant, resilience in our kids. You do this and wow, overnight it's going to change. But I do think they're helpful. So trying new things. Again, I love how Emily shared, encouraging her kids to try something different, try new things. Again, being sensitive to that, there's a lot going on underneath the surface. But I will say that has been very helpful, even in my own children. Again, it's that balance of not jumping in too soon, but not letting them flounder too long. We've heard of helicopter and lawnmower. Those are just terms that we hear. I'm not too fond of those terms, but I get the ideas behind them, where helicopter is we're hovering over them and we're not giving them the autonomy and choice and voice. Because as part of development, they need to have some degree of autonomy and decision-making in their lives that's appropriate for who they are in their developmental stage. And lawnmower just is a reference to somebody who always knocks down the obstacles for their kids, so they never have to face things. That's not what I hear from you, which I'm excited about. And so, but I think sometimes when we see our kids struggling, we want to jump in right away, and we could rob them. So it's not just leave them alone because they need us, but it's also figuring out that balance, that dance. And we don't get it right every single time, but as long as we're aware of it. Cutting out noise. I know this is tough. I know this is hard. I'm not saying take away all social media, video games, and all of that, but we do have to sometimes say, we just need to go outside. Let's go take a walk. Again, if you just kind of say, get off your device, you need to do this or that, that might be a little bit tougher than saying, hey, I really want to spend some time with you. I got this new game. Or as you see in the next picture, I'd love to have you just help me cook dinner, or as dads, help me do other things. Doesn't matter, moms, dads roles, boys, girls roles, whatever. It doesn't matter to me. It's just we're building that connection. So when they say, I can't, so we think empathize, encourage, and then eat small bites. You've heard, how do you eat an elephant, which is a gross analogy, but one bite at a time. It's the same thing. Okay. It's providing that guidance, that advice, not overwhelming them, not trying to tackle. So a lot of times we as parents get frustrated because we say to our kids, go clean your room. And if they have like ADHD or anxiety, that could just totally cause their nervous system to shut down. And then we get upset. Why won't you listen to me? Why don't you do what I tell you? You need to be obedient. Well, we need to stop and say, okay, I can empathize and realize to you that this is an overwhelming task. because I feel the same way. When I look at my whole house and I think I got to clean my whole house, I get overwhelmed. I just want to sit on the couch. I want to binge or watch, sports on TV and just say, forget it. So I get what you're feeling. So how about if we come up with a plan that today we're just going to work on what's on top of your dresser. And so I'm going to help you and I'm going to teach you the skills that you need to do this, not assuming that you know how to do this, but I'm going to teach you the skills to do this. And then we're going to do it together. And then afterwards, see, you worked really hard and look at what you've been able to accomplish through this. And so it's not about bribing. It's not about tricks or treats or any of that. I'm not saying that our kids can't earn things, but that's the point. They're earning because of effort. And so when we break things down, we can empower them. They feel more empowered. They feel more competent. So maybe I can't do a math test because I'm not prepared. So let's start doing some math problems together that are going to challenge you. Again, you're going to stretch a little bit, but I'm right here and I'm going to teach you how to do it. I won't. I don't want to. I won't. I'm not going to do it. So we always want to respect how other people feel and perceive the situation. So a lot of times, especially if kids are oppositional, they're oppositional for a reason. It could be either, again, neurodivergence, or it could be how their nervous system, it's all interrelated. So we can ask questions first, we can suggest a solution. And so instead of saying, this is what you're going to do, how can we work together and solve how we can do this? You're still going to have to do it, but we're not going to get into this power struggle, because when we get into the power struggle, then our emotions, our amygdalas go off. Now we're both trying to be right, and it never ends well. I'll tell you that it never ends well. It ends in hurt. And if it ends in hurt, then we have to be the ones who are leading the restoration process as well. We have to be able, as you guys mentioned, to say, you know what, I messed up. I'm wrong. I did not respond the way that I should have. I did not consider what you were feeling, and I didn't even give you an opportunity to speak. It's humbling, and it doesn't take away. I think a lot of parents believe that you're just undermining your own authority. So you got to understand that we're taking this balanced authoritative approach with our kids. Authoritarian says, you will do what I say, no questions asked. And if you don't do what I say, these are the consequences and the punishments that are coming to you. On the other end of the spectrum, again, it's a stretch. On the other end of the spectrum is permissive parenting, which is, hey, you can do whatever you want. You don't want to do it, fine, that's good. I don't care. Or, oh, I'm sorry, I guess it is too hard for you. I didn't mean to stress you out, and those kinds of things. But remember, we're always in this stretch. So authoritative approaches keeps this balance, saying that I still am responsible to lead you and to guide you as an adult. But at the same time, I have to give you the ability to stretch. And so when they say, I give up or I quit, I think a lot of times we take it personally. We're like, oh, I failed. And Emily, as you were talking about the culture in which you live in, I get it, because we have gotten plenty of stares. We have gotten plenty of under the breath comments. We have had plenty of people come up to our face and tell us we're not good parents. I work with parents who other adults come up to them and say, well, if you really knew how to parent, your child wouldn't be like this. And it takes a lot for us to bite our tongues and to be gracious, but we can't take it personally. And so we acknowledge the effort. Okay, you know what? You tried. Like, I'm so glad that you made that attempt. This idea of ZPD, it's just a fancy educational term for the zone of proximal development, which is what we've been talking about. The zone of proximal development is when kids are giving something that's difficult, but something they can accomplish. And when there is a caring and knowledgeable adult that's working alongside them in that, then you open up the opportunities for teaching, for modeling, for co-regulating, and for communication. But it's, again, as I said before, it's never a one and done. It's not one thing you're going to do tomorrow and your kid's going to automatically be resilient. It's 1,000 little steps. And it takes a lot of wisdom and it takes a lot of compassion. So looking at the time here, I want to respect your time. So I just would like you to remember a few things here. Resilience is not inherent, but it is a learnable skill. And it's going to be developed through long practice. We have a vital role to play in that. And so the more supportive we are, the more supportive the environment is, we're going to see greater gains. When kids come into environments in which they sense already negativity, unrealistic expectations, fear of consequences if they don't perform, that's just going to shut down their nervous systems. And so we want to make sure that we're providing those supportive environments. Again, it doesn't mean that our kids do whatever they want to do, but it means that they know that even if I have to say no as a parent, that we've built this relationship of communication and trust. So they know that. And of course, as they get older now, because I have all teenagers in the house, it gets a little harder because every question is why. And so we have to resist because I said so, or because I'm the parent. And then we also teach them that you may not understand or even want to believe or receive what we're saying, but understand where it's coming from. We trust you, we love you, we care for you. That's our responsibility. And then they begin to feel that. And then every child's path is unique, meaning that there's no, again, one size fits all. So as Khalil Gibran says, with the right support and tools, every child can build resilience and thrive. He says, out of suffering have emerged the strongest souls. The most massive characters are seared with scars. I love that quote. And as therapist and researcher Deb Dana says, the ability to return to regulation is the essence of resilience. So again, it's not just bouncing back. It's I can be regulated in my nervous system, in my body, in my brain, in my emotions, so that way I can continue to move forward with integrity and purpose. So make sure as adults, here's what we need. We need those regular self-care practices. It's the oxygen mask principle, right? If we're not taking care of ourselves first, we're going to be tired, we're going to be irritated, we're not going to respond the right way. So we got to take care of ourselves. If you want more insight, there's plenty of, we live in the world of resources. Reflect on your own experience, your own emotions, your own reactions. Establish boundaries in your life. When we're overextended or we're saying yes to everything and everyone, then we're not really going to be able to take care of ourselves and take care of our kids, which is our priority. And then, of course, always self-compassion, self-empathy. We're all on this journey together. No one's going to do it right 100% of the time. And actually, that's part of the building of resilience. So if everything was perfect, we would never have to be resilient, would we? But we don't live in that reality. And so we're going to make sure in our kids, we're going to help them. We're going to help them with regulating. We're going to give them that and safe and supportive environment. And we're going to teach them how they can continue to build the skills that they need. Where can we go from here? That's the question. So I want to give you a few opportunities to think about. One opportunity that I'm really excited about and branching out into is doing some parent coaching. And I like the idea of parent coaching. It's not family therapy because I'm not a therapist. I'm not a licensed therapist. But coaching has this idea of you're taking the best of everything that's out there and you're walking and guiding side by side families and parents and helping them in a lot of the things that we've been talking about. So we're going to offer a 6-week journey beginning in March. I'm limiting it to 10 families. So it's going to be a small group. And what's going to happen is we're going to have lots of pieces to this. So there's going to be in the 6-week program, twice a week. There's one training session that'll be once a week on Tuesday nights. And then families can also once a week schedule a 30-minute coaching session with me, where we can get into how to personally apply the things that you're learning in the training session. It's very holistic, and drawing, again, you'll learn more about my resilient thriving model. And then it's an opportunity for you to really, I think, stop having to feel the frustration and disappointment as we tried to motivate our kids to engage in these tasks. And so I think I know it's a tremendous investment. It's basically, I calculated out everything you would get in terms of resources and coaching and all of that training. And, it's well over a $1,600 value. I'm offering it to families for $825 for the whole 6 weeks. I'm just here to serve you guys. I'm here to just say, I have dedicated my life to this. And so whatever I can do to come along and serve folks, that's the number one priority, taking what my purpose is, what I have in my experience and my expertise, and then sharing that and empowering and equipping you. So anything I can do for you, just let me know. And I think we're good.
That sounds great to me. Thank you, Dr. Palmer. I definitely will look for your follow-up on my email that I had sent over.
Awesome.
I look forward to the next time.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you all 3 of you for showing up today. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye-bye.